Are you willing to experience delayed gratification? That's my question. That's my question. And you have to be honest with yourself in order to get the ball rolling to financial freedom. Welcome back to the Hindsight 2020 podcast. I'm your host, Leah, and it is Monday. It is Monday. Hopefully you guys had a wonderful weekend. I know I did. I went to work with my husband this past weekend, and we spent time with friends. And it's always motivating and inspiring to be around like-minded, positive people. But today we're going to talk about getting your finances together. Like, it's a new year. But guess what, guys? It's always a new year, every 12 months, It's a new month, it's a new quarter, it's a new week, it's a new day. You don't have to start on the 1st. You can start right now. So we have to be honest with ourselves when it comes to our financing. I was looking at something on YouTube this past weekend, and it was talking about, how you shouldn't have any money in your bank account. You shouldn't use debit cards. And basically how all of your money should be 100% invested. And you should live off credit while all of your money is making money for you. And it is definitely a concept, and it's definitely something that people employ. They do it regularly, successfully. So I wasn't opposed to the idea at all. But it got me thinking, right? Sometimes we listen to people who have all of the advice and all of the success because we can see them living in the success that we want to obtain. But not oftentimes do they tell us the play-by-play, the step-by-step, and specifically the hiccups along the ways, the downfalls, the sacrifices that are made in order for them to get to where they are today, in order for them to get to that place where we want to go. If I'm someone who is an overspender, who is not good with money management, who has not even recognized what my relationship with money is, because you have to understand your relationship with money before you can even begin the path of financial freedom. It's very much an emotional and psychological thing. We don't just say, hey, we're going to automatically stop being spenders and become savers. We have to understand, what is our relationship with money? Why do I have the spending habits that I have? But you can't go from that to, okay, I'm just going to put everything on a credit card and take all my money out the bank and get to investing if you're not even able to pay your bills on time, right? If you're not even able to get that credit card to start this process. So today I really wanted to focus on, how do we identify our relationship with money, and what steps can be taken today to start the journey of financial freedom? What steps can be taken today in order to lighten the load when it comes to investing or anything that you want to do with your money? You have to start somewhere. Right? And starting somewhere is not taking my money out the bank and putting it in the stock market, especially if I'm, a month behind on my rent, if my credit cards are maxed out, and if I have a poor relationship with money. So let's get into it. When I say it's important to analyze and understand what your relationship with money is because everything in our lives can be tied back to an emotional or a mental or a psychological thing, right? And the reason why I say that is everything starts in our head. Before we articulate that idea to our partner, it generated in our head. Before we could verbalize our decision on whether or not we're going to have a salad or a burger, those thoughts generated within our head. We are our first conversationalists. We are the first people that we talk to as ourselves. The first thoughts are our own. The first no comes within. It all starts within ourselves. So it's important to say, well, what is my relationship with money? How do I feel about money? Right? I've heard a lot of, your relationship with food and poor health habits because of your relationship with food. But we also have a relationship with money. Oftentimes, people who have come from very little, when they obtain money, they either hoard it or they spend it because it makes them feel good, right? You think about all the things you couldn't do, and now you can do them. And it's because of your hard work that you now can do these things. So, of course, you want to reward yourself. There's nothing wrong with that thought or that mindset. But we have to really understand what our relationship is with money. I know coming up, I was extremely financially strapped as a child in a household as well as a young adult. I experienced lights being turned off as a young adult trying to manage my bills, being forced out of my home. I've experienced eviction. Like, I've experienced negative money in my bank account. Not, working every day as well as going to school, but still not having enough money to pay off my day-to-day necessities. I wasn't partying or going on lavish trips or anything like that. It's just I was not making enough money. So when I did enter into my career, because I've graduated college now and now I have a career, and I went and I started the process to purchase my first home. When I moved into my home, I didn't buy anything. I did not buy anything. I think I had a bed, and I don't even know if I purchased a couch. I think I had a bed and I had an old TV that I had for many years. And it was because I was so scared to spend my money on things that I felt like wasn't necessities, just in case I couldn't cover my necessities. So my thought process was, well, I don't want to spend $4, $5, $6, $7,000 to furnish and decorate my home, because if I was to ever get strapped with cash, I would look at all this stuff thinking, well, this living room set could have been my mortgage. This bedroom set and a guest room that I'm not even using could have been my light bill. And it was literally because of the experiences that I had. I was making 2 times the amount of money necessary to maintain myself when I purchased my first home. At this point, I had become very, very conscious of how much I was making a month and how much I was willing to spend on mortgage, how much I was willing to spend on utilities. At the time, prior to me buying my house, I was intentional about paying my car note off. I was very intentional about moving into a home and not having a car note, which I was successful at doing that. But I was very, very extremely intentional about making certain sacrifices, but it was almost to the extreme because I had experienced not having, and I had experienced as an adult what not having meant, right? As a child, you can experience what not having is, but you don't get the full impact. But as an adult, I experienced the full impact of not having enough money to cover my rent. Making that decision to pay for rent and not pay for my lights or my electricity, I should say. Right? So my relationship with money was poor. My relationship with money was I had to hoard it. I had to hoard it. I had to look at my bank account every single day to see that it was there. I had to be accessible to it to the point where I wasn't even willing to spend it, right? I'm talking about having $10,000, $15,000 in my savings account, but did not want to buy curtains, did not want to purchase, more than one bed set, did not want to purchase, I bought the very minimal, the cheapest washer and dryer set that I could find. New, but the cheapest. And I remember it took me about 2 years being in that home before, talking to my sister, talking to my friends, where it was just like, you know what? Live a little. I can spend. But again, it took me 2 years. It took me 2 years of really looking at my financing, doing my spreadsheet, because I am a spreadsheet girl when it comes to my financing, and saying, you have more than a year's worth of savings for quote unquote emergencies. Like, you can go buy that paint and paint your walls. You can go get that bedroom set for your guest room. You can go get those curtains. You can get that vase for $19.99 at the at-home store, girl. It's not going to break you. And that took time. And I say that that's unhealthy, and I had an unhealthy relationship with money because since I had that hoarding spirit, I couldn't see past going to work, making money, paying my bills, and hoarding what was left over. I couldn't see past it. So me thinking about anything besides putting my money in a savings account that was making me little to no money at all wasn't something that I could process. It wasn't anything that I could process. So that's one extreme, right? And then you have the other extreme where I go to work, I make my money, I pay my bills, and whatever's left over, I'm living my life. I'm blowing that money. I'm buying those shoes. I'm going out to dinner. I'm going out for drinks. I'm covering people's tabs. I'm running up my credit card because I deserve it. I live. I know I'm going to work and get another check and I'll do this thing again. I don't have money in my savings account. It's not necessary. What motivates me every day to get up and go to work is this, $600 car note. It's this, house that I can barely afford, but I want it. It looks good. When people come over, I feel valued because of the things that I have. So that's what motivates me to get up every day and go to work. And I deserve these things, right? I deserve these watches. I deserve this jewelry. I deserve this perfume collection. I deserve, the Nikes. I deserve it all because I work. And guess what? I didn't have, when I was younger. Or maybe I did have. And this is the spending habits that I saw of my parents. My parents told me, you get up, you work, you bust your butt every day, you get your check, and you enjoy life, right? So my relationship with money there is whatever I can obtain, that's what makes me feel good. That is who I am. My value that I see within myself is what I can possess. Two different extremes, right? My relationship with money equates to the value of what I see within myself. That's one. The other extreme is my relationship with money is I'm so scared to lose it that I will possess nothing or little to nothing. Two extremes. And believe it or not, these two extremes met in 2015, started dating, got married, and now have 3 rental properties, um, money in IRAs, money in dividend stocks, money in growth stocks, starting a new company, has 2 businesses. Yes, 2 different extremes. My husband and I. This is our relationship with money story. 2 different extremes. But we had to get on the same page when we really started saying, well, what do we want to do for our future? How do we want to scale our family? And that's when we sat down and we really started discussing our financial goals, our financial dreams, and what we needed to do in order to get there. Now, one thing we really had to look at was, were we willing to experience delayed gratification? Because the things that we wanted to do was big things, okay? But before those big things, we had to manage our small things, our day-to-day money habits, right? Our day-to-day money habits. So what we did was, and this is something that you can do, it doesn't matter if you're on 1 income, 2 incomes, it does not matter. What we did, and what I had been doing for years prior to meeting my husband, as well as telling my family and friends who wanted to know how I was managing my money. I had a spreadsheet. You can do this on basic paper and pencil. But I had a spreadsheet and I put down how much money I was making every single month. I wrote that number down, or I typed that number in. And I did it for the month because my bills were monthly. Everyone's bills are monthly, right? We pay our bills once a month. And if you're salary, if you're hourly, if you're whatever, you should know, even if you get paid weekly or bi-weekly, how much money you bring home every single month. So I wrote that number down. And then I decided to look at how much money went out for bills. Legitimate, hardcore, monthly, everyday bills. Those would be your mortgage or your rent, car note if you have it, car insurance, your utilities, things like that. Your everyday bills. If you have children, your child care, you have to have that. I was not putting on this list gas in my car, groceries, eating out, Netflix subscriptions. I wasn't putting any of that. It was legitimately only the bills that I needed. Now remember what I said about my relationship with money. That's why I was able to look at things so tightly. Okay. I only put down my necessary bills, not bills that I could live without. And what I did was I would subtract how much those bills were from how much money I was making monthly. And you would be surprised how much money is left over. Now, unless you're in a situation where you do not make enough money to cover your daily, everyday expenses, and if that's the case, then, looking for another job or adding another job, adding another stream of income is something that's going to be important. But most people, believe it or not, regardless of if you're living check to check, most people, if you subtract your necessary bills from how much money you're bringing home every month, there is a surplus. And sometimes we don't realize there's a surplus because we don't see the surplus because we're not recognizing the I'm bored, so let me go to Target runs. Or I'm driving to work. So my habit is every day that I drive to work, I stop at Starbucks and get me a caramel apple spice and an almond croissant. Or I'm bored, so let me drive around and find something to do. So when you really sit back and look and you subtract how much your bills are, if you have a credit card, right? If you have a credit card, I would not put that in your everyday necessity bills. Not saying not to pay your credit card, but I'll tell you how we factor in the rest of our money. So again, you take how much money you're bringing home monthly, you subtract your necessary bills. That's your housing, childcare if you have it, car note, car insurance, cell phone, utilities. Boom. Those bills that are coming every month, not your credit card bills. Not gas in your car, not going out to eat, not groceries. I know we have to eat. We're going to get there, I promise. Then look at your surplus. Now, your surplus can be divided into gas in your car because that can fluctuate, right? So your gas in your car, your groceries, that also fluctuates. Your entertainment, your Netflix, your Hulu, your direct TV or whatever your cable service is, your credit card, all of those fluctuating bills. Because where you fluctuate is where you can find the money to save. That's where you find what can I do differently where I'm not living check to check. Because after I do the math, I should have $1,000 left over, but I don't see it, right? Or my credit card, I'm making minimum payments, but you could be making more if you wasn't randomly, going out to eat for breakfast and lunch. But I promise you, when those numbers are in your face, you will be blown away with what your surplus is. And then asking yourself or really tracking, what am I doing with this surplus? So when my husband and I sat down, at the time we weren't married, but when my husband and I sat down and we did this, we said, listen, we're living together. We have 2 salary incomes. There is no way we shouldn't have any money. There is no way. So we sat down, we looked at all of the bills that we had collectively. I didn't have a car note. No, at this point, I ended up getting a car note because I got into a car accident. So I did have a very minimum car note. But we really sat down, we looked at all of our bills collectively, and we said, okay, and only those must-have bills, okay? Only those must-have bills. We looked, we sat down, and we said, all right, this is how much money we need a month to pay our bills. We're going to live off of this portion of our paychecks. The other portion of our paychecks, my husband at the time he had been researching about investing. He says, I want to invest. And I said, great. But before we can invest in anything, we have to invest in our debt. So when we lower our debt and or eliminate our debt, all of the money that we're using to eliminate our debt can now turn into money that we can invest. And that's how we attacked the plan. Okay, that's how we attacked it. So in the beginning, we didn't have a lot of money to invest because we had debt, we had loans, we had credit cards. So it was a focus. All right. If I'm supposed to have $1,000 left over, guess what? $1,000 is going to, attack, or maybe 500 or 600. We were very aggressive because it was only two of us. So we could say, you know what, we're only going to spend $100 a week on groceries. And if that means, not going out to eat and literally eating until our pantry is empty, that's what that means. Paying off this credit card so that way I have an extra $300 a month that was going to debt that now can go to investment. That's what that means. So we really had to buckle down and get those things done. And that's when that delayed gratification kicked in. Because that delayed gratification means I have the money to go out to eat. I have the money to go on that vacation. I have the money to get that new car. I have the money to buy those new clothes or to get that sneaker or go out with friends and pick up the tab. I have the money to do that, but I'm choosing not to, because today I want to attack this so that tomorrow I can have that gratification of that. So are you willing to experience delayed gratification? Are you willing to say, even on those days that I'm tired, I'm not going to stop at the McDonald's to get myself or my kids fast food. I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to eat what's in the house. Even when I'm exhausted. I'm going to prepare for those exhausted days. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think about and be realistic about the meals that I'm going to cook this week. And I'm going to write a grocery list based on the meals that I'm going to cook. And I'm only going to purchase those things. And I'm going to stick to my budget. I'm not going to blow my budget. I'm not going to get that extra pack of soda. I'm not going to randomly get those bags of chips that wasn't on my list. I don't need them for this week's meal. I'm going to go in my freezer and I'm going to dig through there and I'm going to look at everything that I have and I'm going to incorporate what I already have in my freezer and in my pantry. So that way I'm spending less money at the grocery store. You know how much money we waste buying groceries or going out to eat? Simply because what I have a taste for, I either don't want to cook or I don't have those ingredients in my home. So it's Tuesday and I want Taco Tuesday. And I went to the grocery store, but I didn't buy anything for Taco Tuesday. So let me go right back out and spend some more money. When you can easily say, well, sorry, we got cube steak and mashed potatoes and broccoli. So the delayed gratification definitely is something that you really have to ask yourself, because remember, it starts in your mind. What is my relationship with money, and am I willing to experience delayed gratification to get to where I want to go? I promise you, if you think about those two things and you really apply, looking at your budget, really seeing what you're bringing in and what's going out, and really executing a plan of success, the small goals that you have in order to reach your larger goal, they will start to come. You will start to see it, and it will be drastic and it will be quick. I'm not telling you something that we did 8 years ago. My husband and I invested in our first property in 2020. We invested in our first dividend funds in 2019. Dividend funds in 2019. But you have to get the ball rolling in order for it to start. You have to start in order for the ball to continue. So are you willing to start? Is today the day? Hopefully it is. And hopefully you will see the success that you're looking for. So, with that being said, until next time, guys, bye.